ton. My sister actually house was all of their pellets. I mean, we were at our house last year, it was so nice. So anyway, yeah.
We were talking about that far away. So.
Yeah.
Quite a few.
Yeah.
But everybody might just move 42 trees on one project. The majority of them.
Okay, that is so fabulous. That was just, you know, we had 1 million like 80 years ago and now. So what do you think they're doing to Sanctuary? We're already ahead of like.
24.
So.
I've already done.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
No, I was talking to some other people in my neighborhood, I was sisters, and they were like, yeah, there's actually grant. Oh, yeah. Is it unbelievable?
You have like a whole like scheduled timeline about it. It's like, okay, no.
We're actually seeing less than we had like a couple years ago.
Really?
You know, when we get some smaller grants from the counties.
Do you want me to share Dan's contact number
Sure,
with you?
sure.
Cause you could even, I'm always bugging it, but.
Well, I've got a buddy that's, he's actually one of my solar systems.
It's totally fine. We made some,
He's the one
Oh,
that runs
Those
the
two are
plant
all
trees,
the
so I don't know if he has a way to all about
And
those
I
pine
don't
trees.
know.
Yeah,
Okay,
'cause that's the transportation.
Right. I know, I'm trying to think, somebody I know that works in the assessment, her, I mean, she may have
Oh, yeah.
retired.
I think we'll
Her,
be fine. I just didn't wanna like.
Her husband was like a logger. So, okay, what number should,
503.
Can everyone hear us online all right?
oh, sorry, 6.
Someone give me a thumbs up or just speak up and let me know if you can hear us.
55660.
Just buried the altar.
97055.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
5560?
Yep.
Oh, you're in my cover. Of course you are. Okay. Yeah,
Lauren,
call
can you
in,
hear us?
just to make sure.
See you on
You
there.
sent me his contact info?
Yes, I did.
Got it, nice.
Yeah, I just really would like to, I don't know, see, I drive down Cartier and BLM actually, somebody like thinned a bunch of trees and they've been burning them, but they really didn't pull the trees out. Like you really need to do a better job than what they're doing. But at least they're doing something, but not enough. Yes.
That's the only one you're aware of, right?
Yeah, well, there was a pelletizing company in Pineville and the guy that was running it had an accident, died. So, yeah, I know. That was sad. But that's so good to know you guys are doing that.
Do a lot of, we do a lot of assessments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're actually mapping our, in fact, these same people.
Uh-huh, yeah.
I never made them before and I was like,
Yeah, well,
these are.
Good morning,
He does a lot
everyone.
of the Italian.
Thanks for being here today.
Fire season.
We have kind of more of a casual meeting today. We're gonna do a pretty solid roundtable. We're gonna go over topics for next year's Project Wildfire meetings and a little bit of program and work stuff. We're also gonna talk about steering committee appointments. We have a few coming up this year for either renewal or we're gonna probably change some out. And so we'll go ahead and start with the introductions.
Morning, David Mormon, American Red Cross.
Good morning, Patty Gentilombo, Sun River Owners Association.
Hi there, I'm Lon Lenee with our review HOA.
Good morning, the second Patty in the room, Patty Anderson, County Commissioner.
Chuck Fuller, Sisters Fire.
Heather Miller, Oregon State Fire Marshal. Emily Curtis, Discover Your Forest.
I'm Sophia Zoll, I'm Discovery Forest Conservation Education member.
Kevin Moriarty, County Forester.
Brent Kiner, Fire Adaptive Communities Coordinator. And if you're on Zoom today, will you please put your intro in the chat so that I can record it for meeting minutes. And then, so we'll start with updates. Oh, actually, before I do updates, let's start with Juan.
Oh, you wanted me to talk a little bit about the neighborhood coalition. So the Project Wildfire Neighborhood Coalition started it, I think in spring. And so we're really starting to get a little more mature and kind of get a good rhythm going. So we are a subcommittee of Project Wildfire. And our mission is to support the Project Wildfire mission by improving fire adapted readiness one neighborhood at a time. So that's how we've defined ourselves. And we're gaining new members and new attendees at our meetings. We just changed it. We meet every third Thursday of the month from 2 to 3:30 at the County Road Department out on 27th. We're not going to have a meeting in December, but otherwise we meet every month. So our next one is January 18th. And we've identified and developed a standard agenda. So our three main topics every meeting are recruitment of new members or new potential FireWise communities. So we're really trying to go after those that want to become FireWise or want to advance their FireWise capabilities and need some assistance or want some assistance so they don't have to recreate the wheel. So we have documentation, we have experienced people that can help them through the FireWise process and just give them ideas. So we have a heavy focus on recruitment. In fact, we just sent out a letter a month ago and we're going to resend it to 70 HOA coordinators and encourage them to attend if they want to. Anybody can always attend the meeting. So they're open meetings. You can come once and see what it's all about, or you can come every month. So we're just trying to encourage increased participation. Then our second agenda topic is education. So we want to have an educational component to every meeting, one or two. And so we just had a meeting last week, and our upcoming educational topics, Heather was going to present on home hardening at the next meeting. And then we also have steps to becoming a FireWise community. We'll have a discussion around that. Updating design guidelines and ARC requirements. So that's a topic of interest of how people convert their existing design guidelines into a more fire preventative type of an approach. And then we thought we hope to invite Nathan Garabee to talk about evacuation plans. And then we're going to have a presentation on Zeroscape. So those are the types of educational discussions, the presentations that we intend to have. And then the third item to our committee is mentorship. So for those people that want to have mentors, they kind of raise their hand and then we try to assign a mentor in either a similar geography or similar size of an HOA or a community. You know, if you're a smaller community in the South County, then there's mentors that are more appropriate for that situation and so forth. So those are the three key: recruitment, education, and mentorship. And just trying to develop and spread the ability of FireWise communities faster around Deschutes County than we'd be able to do otherwise. So that's really the main purpose to it. As I mentioned, everybody's welcome to attend. And so that's kind of in a nutshell what we're doing. And last meeting, we really started to gain some additional traction. I thought it was really good. And so I think we're onto a really good pattern. And so again, we're going to send out that recruitment letter, and hopefully we'll see even more people attending, because we saw, I don't know, half a dozen new faces last week at the meeting. And we intend to keep improving that. So, and it's a combination of HOA, like myself, HOA members or community members and advisors. So we have a lot of advisors, some of whom are in this room, that are also part of this committee. So we can draw upon HOA experiences as well as advisor expertise to help us as part of the mentorship process. So, so we're getting underway and we expect a lot of good things next year.
Great.
Any questions or?
Yeah, I thought there was two connections right in that last meeting. I think you were talking about you were working with Stonegate, right?
Stonegate, yeah. That came through Melissa and Ross were out doing the initial risk assessment on a potential FireWise and referred them to me. And so I shared a bunch of the things that we've done at Aubrey Butte, and they weren't able to come to the last meeting, but yeah, I'm going to help them and reach back out to them. And then
I believe it's
Edie. There was Edie and the fellow and Eric. They agreed to mentor and be a mentor and be the mentor as well in the South. And that was a unincorporated community of 200 residences that he's trying to get enough people, at least 8, to become a Firewise community, even though they're not an HOA. So that's exactly the kind of thing that we want to have develop out of this.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's nice to have some mentors stepping up. Exciting. We have 2 more that just joined us. Will you guys do a little intro for us?
Hi, I'm Gabe. I'm here for a school project. So I'm just gonna be taking notes on what you guys are saying for a little bit. This is my sister Olivia. She came.
Awesome. Welcome. All right, so we'll go ahead and do some updates. One update I know for sure. I think we're gonna go ahead and not have a Project Wildfire meeting next month, since right before Christmas. So if everyone's okay with that, unless anyone's burning to have a December meeting.
Oh, don't use that word.
No pun intended, Patty.
I know.
Yeah, so I think we'll go ahead and, because we're not having a subcommittee meeting next month either, so we also have got a lot of updates to do on our steering committee members, so I think I'll spend my time doing that next month instead of planning it. Yeah, Kevin, do you have any updates?
Yeah, just really the grant updates. So let's see, the spring grant that we've pretty much closed that out now. Everyone who was awarded that grant turned in a report, so that's fantastic that we got complete completeness on that. There's a lot of really good photos in there. I submitted that report to Heather, and there was a lot of really good stories. So it was a great way to capture that information. So keep it up. We love those photos, especially of people working. I mean, that just really tells the story of what people are doing out there. So we'll have a very similar process for the fall grant, which is the report won't be due till June 30th. So you got a little time on that, but it'll be a very similar process. You'll need a budget of some capacity, a narrative, all the invoices or receipts associated with the award. And then again, we love all sorts of photos if you could supply those. So on the fall grant, everyone but 2 communities have signed the agreement. So I'm working with those right now just to make sure they sign it. But for the most part, we're have awarded almost everyone on the fall grant.
Kevin, can you remind us how much money did you award for the fall grant?
For the fall grant, it was $72,000.
And what about the spring grant then?
The spring grant was, actually I have those mixed up. The fall grant was $70,000, the spring grant was $72,000. And then sweat equity, we're starting to make some progress with the bins. We've got essentially an agreement with Republic. They've been working with the landfill to help alleviate some of those costs for bin or box rentals. And so right now they're gonna price us out at $250 a bin for kind of the spring Firewise event. We're gonna essentially take on that service. So right now we have 11 communities that have requested bins for that for the spring. We want to make sure we're not missing anyone, so I'm probably just going to put that questionnaire on the website. And we do have some time, we have till essentially April to gather anyone else that needs bins or boxes. But I think we're going to have enough funding to support that for anyone that needs it.
How big are those bins?
So there's 3 sizes, I think. I think there's a 30 by 30, a 20 by 20, and a 10 by 10. So I priced them out just at the 30 by 30, just to the maximum cost it would cost. But I think what I need to go back and find out exactly what size people need, because one thing that Greg Bryant brought up in our last meeting is that those 30 by 30 are so big, they're almost too difficult to get stuff into the bin itself.
Do they have doors that open?
I think some
The backs typically do.
Yeah.
But
So it's
but if somebody opens it and stuffs it right there, then people gotta push it all back. And
Right.
it can be a little awkward.
Yeah, so I think each community will probably want, you know, a nuanced approach of what bins they want, you know, some might want smaller bins, some might want bigger, so
But
that's
the
probably.
30 by 30 is 250 then, the price that
No, any bin will be 250, so.
any bin.
Yeah, so, but it's more on volume, so if you have 30 by 30, and you want that amount, and they don't have that, they would just give you like a 20 or a 210s or something, just to make sure you have that amount. So you can really request what you want, but up to 30 by 30.
Kevin, you said that includes the disposal.
Includes the
Which is huge.
disposal, so
That's the expensive part.
we're gonna organize that, we're gonna work with Republic, work with the landfill, get the list to Republic. They're essentially will invoice us for all the costs of that. Now, we still haven't worked, we're trying to get Cascade to match that cost. But we haven't got there yet, so we're still working on Cascade, but we do have an agreement with Republic right now. Ian, you got a question?
Yeah, the bins sound like a good option for sweat equity. Are you planning on doing any chipper programs?
Yeah, so I really wanted to try and get the cost dialed a little bit on those bins to see what that, because we have 100,000 right now this year devoted to sweat equity. So I wanted to see how much that was gonna cost before we got into more expensive type projects like chipping, to see what we could allocate to that. So I think the next step before chipping is we have a handful of communities that we're looking for just disposal. So really just hauling off material versus keeping a bin stationary. So I wanna look at that cost as well, but I feel we're gonna have a pretty substantial amount that we can devote to a chipping program, but it's gonna take a little bit of time to get through some of these other programs before we can think of the chipping program.
We also didn't have as much interest in the chipping as we did the bins.
That's why I brought it up, is bins work really good for the neighborhoods that can like request to fill out.
Yeah,
But that takes like organization within the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And with the chipping program, there's a lot of neighborhoods, at least in South County, that don't have that kind of HOA representation.
yeah,
And so if the county can actually reach out to some of these neighborhoods and just let them know that some kind of sweat equity program is available, whether it's, you know, they get it out to the roadside, and whether it gets picked up and put in bins and hauled away, or whether it gets chipped. Those have been really helpful for those type of communities that lack organization. And I know that a lot of the emphasis, or at least the talking points recently has been on like the underserved kind of communities. And so
Yeah.
I'm just advocating for that. Thanks.
yeah, I think working with, you know, the Upper Deschutes, and some of the other areas down in South County is, as far as where that need is. But we do have some money allocated towards that chipping program. But
Yeah.
it's gonna take a little bit logistically to get it.
Yeah.
in place, so.
Those are just some of the areas where you go, oh, well, they're not asking for bins.
Yeah.
They don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's really all about that. So, you know, we'll put the questionnaire on the bins, and then I'm gonna probably put a similar questionnaire for debris removal on the website to try and get that information. For the chipping program, I think we're gonna have to probably reach out more individually with people who have requested it, and then the communities that we don't necessarily, you know, we're not aware of that might need that service as well. So, yeah, that's all I have for grants on updates.
Actually, I just shared with Lon, you know, Mayor Richter in La Pine has that pelletizing machine that I'm really trying to get him to do something with it. And he may need some help with it financially. I'm not sure where we can get that, but he actually can do a ton of juniper pellets an hour, which is outstanding. And, you know, if we all kind of start putting the pressure on, maybe we can get that so we can actually recycle with those junipers, it would be really great. It was amazing, the Topanga fire went around my house when I looked at the top of the Santa Monica Mountains. And we had a 40 cubic foot dumpster down below our house, and I don't know how the man got there that morning, the wind was 80 miles an hour, but somehow the man got there, picked up that huge dumpster and hauled it off. And the wind was 80 miles an hour, 359 homes burned in that fire and 3 people died. So, yeah, I was always trying to keep my property really cleaned up. But the thing to think about, Dean, is those chips, those chips, if they do ignite, they can, if we've got a wind, like remember in September of 2020, when the wind was 70 miles an hour from the northeast, they can take those ignited chips and blow them for like a couple miles. So that's why I worry about chips more.
The shipping programs have been trending towards shipping it and hauling
Hauling it
rather
away?
than leaving it on site, because you're right, it's flammable material. It's just been relocated onto the ground.
Well, that's why I think it'd be great if we can get Mayor Richter's pelletizing machine to work. They used to have a company in Prineville that did juniper pellets. And unfortunately, I don't think that's still around. But then the other thing that the governor's actually supporting is that biomass plant in Prineville.
So,
It's,
yeah.
It's out there. It's not funded yet.
South County, we're really juniper poor in South County.
Yes,
And,
you're lucky because we have, 5 million more than we had like 80 years ago in the state. We've got 6 million junipers now. Is the
Yeah.
number I was told last week.
Yeah, a lot of them are north and
They're right by me.
east. Yeah,
Cause I drive through them.
and it's a hobby horse that I've gotten off of, but I educated myself on the biomass and it really needs to be decentralized. I mean, if there's a biomass plant in Prineville, it's cost prohibitive to transport materials that far.
Now, the county did fund, there's a biomass plant going in at Mount Bachelor. And of course,
Oh, you're talking about a facility that uses biomass.
well, no, they're gonna actually burn all their cleanup there. And they're gonna save on their propane bills at Mount Bachelor.
Yeah, I was talking about, I misunderstood. I thought you were talking about like biomass processing facilities.
Well, they
I mean,
want,
to turn the material into burnable
okay,
fuel.
all right, well, whatever Prineville can pull together. I know Lapine originally was wanting to do one, like, what, 5 years ago?
I was gonna do a big one. It was gonna be like at the railroad, which
Mhm.
sounded really ideal. But because it's a private enterprise, they never went through with it because they couldn't get a guarantee that they would get the materials, because the Forest Service was budgeting from year to year. And so they need to make sure that they get a consistent amount of materials coming in. And also, again, the transportation, just to get it to that facility, even though there's buco tons of biomass out there, it's where it is, like at Bachelor, maybe they can process it right there.
No, they're gonna process it right
Yeah.
there and, for their propane costs.
Yeah.
I did pay $3.60 a gallon for gas in Springfield the other day. So at least I do see that regular gasoline's going down.
So yeah, biomass is really great, but we need to go a long ways to make it really work, and there has to be more, it might actually have to be it might actually have to be supported, to get it going.
Alright, was that all you had for updates?
Yeah,
So I will move on to our steering committee term updates. So there's a number of people on the steering committee whose terms end next month. I'll be sending out emails to those whose terms are coming up and kind of just finding out if they want to renew and continue as a member. As it says in the charter, if you miss 3 consecutive meetings, you're technically supposed to be bumped out. This year, since Kevin and I took over, we haven't really been doing that so much, just kind of like trying to observe and get the hang of the way things go with the committee. But I think we're gonna start being a little more strict on that because there's a number of members who just haven't come to any meetings. And so we'd like to get those spots filled with people who do want to attend the meetings and can be more involved and engaged in the committee. So I'm gonna go ahead and get some of those emails sent out. If you're interested in becoming a steering committee member, you can either email me or talk to me and we can figure out which spots are vacant. And if that'll be a good fit. Kevin, you have anything to add about that?
No, we're still finding out how the process works. So if you're already on the steering committee, we have term limits, so we need to renew those terms. So it's just gonna be a matter of, are you willing to renew your term? If you are, I think it's for this committee, it's 2 to 3 year term. We try to stagger those a little bit. So we give some people 2, some people 3, so we're not renewing all the terms at once. For new committee members, we have to find out what the process is. It could be an application process, or it could be as simple as committee members appointing them to the committee. So we have to work with HR to find out that answer. But it'll be one of those 2 processes.
From the Red Cross perspective, I think we've been an at-large member of the steering committee for many years, and I think we're willing to step back and let somebody else be on the steering committee who's more directly affected by the programs. I think Red Cross would continue to attend and observe and participate, but it's not essential that we have that at-large seat. So just offer that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like your term ends in next month. I'll send out emails about that. All right.
Hi, this is Ariel Cowan, OSU Extension. Hey, good morning. I was just wondering, are there requests for seats that can't be filled because, is there an echo? Are there requests for seats but that can't be filled because there isn't space for them?
No, there's vacancies.
Okay. And then I'm also curious, I'm sorry, I was a little bit late. I missed it. When were you planning to have the next steering committee meeting?
Like just the steering committee?
Like,
is that what you mean?
Yes.
We don't have one scheduled, but we could have a meeting potentially in January for just steering committee members. We didn't do one this year because we just had a lot of folks that there was a lot of folks on the steering committee that haven't really been participating, and so it's been difficult to track who's actually on that steering committee. Now that we have a better grasp of that, I think we could have a steering committee and plan it. I would say probably early next year. They could help with the program of work and all those things.
Yeah, I'd like to have our have the memberships updated and as many seats as possible filled before we have that meeting.
Okay, thank you. I look forward to that.
Yeah, thanks. Any other questions? So the next thing I really want to go over is, I know last year, I think we did this in December, but since we're canceling our December meeting, I want to hear from everyone what topics and interests we have for 2024 for Project Wildfire. So I know last year I kind of did like a roundtable, and had people just give a few ideas of things that they were interested in. And that's kind of how we determined our presentations and topics. But I think I'll just open it up for anyone who wants to just speak up and throw some ideas out there and topics. Start in the room.
Yeah, so first thing, think about like what we had for presentations this year. Did you like the presentations we had? Was there other presentations you'd like to see? So, you know, we had a lot of really good information. So we're trying to plan that out a little bit. What presentations would be really helpful for this group? And then also like topics to talk about, you know, things that we necessarily weren't covering this year. You know, what are some of the topics you'd like to see this committee work on?
I thought the OSU PhD Forester, I thought that was an excellent presentation for, you know, I didn't take science like that, and I thought it was really incredibly interesting. And then having Tim DeBoo come over from, you know, Crook County and all of his expertise, really appreciated that.
Yeah.
So anyway, and I want you all to know that there is a dead ponderosa pine that I drive by every day, and it's like 150 feet tall. So I've been talking to ODOT about getting, because I can just see that tree coming over and you know, it could hit somebody really easily. Well, it's taken like, I think 4 months to possibly, and the tree is still standing, but they're actually gonna take it out. So if there's a tree you guys see somewhere and you feel like it's in a dicey spot, just let me know and I'll bug ODOT about it. But yeah, it's, you know, what was it, maybe 2 years ago, 1 week we had a lot of wind. 5 Oregonians were killed by falling trees. So, you know.
Sounds like you're coming up with a topic.
Well, no, I mean,
Hazard
it just took
trees.
forever though to get, I just wanna, you know, this one, and he goes, well, what tree are you talking about? And I'm going, it's right by Willow Lane. So
Yeah.
anyway, and then he said, well, it's really on private property. And yet the fence is right next to the tree and the tree is, you know, anyway, I think maybe they're gonna take it down.
That could be a good topic though. talking
Yeah, well, we
about
can hear
hazard
from
trees.
ODOT and how,
Yeah.
they have a whole program evaluating, cause I'm like, well, how often do you do this? And then I thought it was fascinating that the forester actually mentioned, even when we have diseased trees in Oregon, that they don't take out the roots, and that's where the disease is, possibly, and it can last for 50 years. And that she'd only seen it in British Columbia where they actually took out the whole tree, and I'm going, why would you wanna leave the whatever it is underneath the ground that's gonna be there for 50 years?
Oh, yeah. our
Didn't you guys
pathology.
find that fascinating though?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just like, really? Cause it costs so much to take out the
Yeah.
tree to begin with. Why would you just spend the additional and do it right?
Yeah, there's a couple things. One is a little more expensive, different equipment to take that out. On, you know, there's a lot of restrictions for ground disturbance. That's at least on federal land. That's probably the biggest reason they don't take the trees out at the roots is the ground disturbance. But you're right, you could take that whole tree out, especially if it's disease. It should be
Right, well, that's the whole
My,
thing.
my takeaway from that presentation was that, that it varies according to the region and stuff too. In our area, I don't think that we have that kind of, problem so much.
You think it's on the wetter side of the state?
I don't know the wetter side of the state, but it just, you know, just like our weather, it really varies from one area to another. And some forested areas have a lot more of the root rot and the way that it spreads and stuff. Because I was asking about that and because I've got an area nearby me, but it stays for the last 30 years, it stayed in like about a 50-foot area, and it affects those trees right there. And it's really kind of a big deal to take out the whole root system. So
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I'm not gonna
Yeah,
say
I had
that.
something to
done.
bring up as a possible
Okay.
topic. I know that we have our partners from the various fire districts and stuff that attend this sometimes. And I would like to see La Pine Fire, Rural Fire District, be more involved in Project Wildfire.
I would love to see that.
And I thought maybe as a way to like warmly encourage that, maybe we could invite them to make a presentation.
Yeah, just,
I can certainly try. We need to talk with them anyways, because they hold a seat on the committee. So.
I know I've talked to them before and they say, oh, well, we're having staffing issues and stuff as far, but I mean, when it comes down to it, one excuse is as good as another, but there's a huge exposure there, and so
Yeah, it'd be great to get them in for an update.
yeah,
Just on the department.
yeah, and just get more traction in that area. Thanks.
Definitely. Thanks, Nate. And then, okay, I see Bob, you have your hand up online?
Yeah, thanks, Corinne. I just wanted to say I really liked the programs that you had this year. Thought they were very educational. A couple things come to mind that you might want to think about. I keep hearing that Marin County, California has tremendous outreach and programs for wildfire control in that county. Maybe we could get somebody from that county to be a guest speaker.
Okay.
Also, I'm thinking Butte County in California, where the Paradise Fire was. Maybe they could come and talk about lessons learned from that horrible fire years ago. But also, I'd like to hear more from the State Fire Marshal's office about their new guidelines. It seems like their guidelines are a little bit different than the FireWise guidelines, and how we as FireWise communities can meld those. And you know, some of our residents are saying, well, if I go with the State Fire Marshal's guidelines, then I'd have to take out a whole bunch of my landscaping and my trees, and I'm not willing to do that. So that's an issue in my neighborhood, especially with old growth ponderosas that we have in Mountain High. People are very reluctant to remove them, and we don't want to remove them because of the carbon footprint. So, you know, we're kind of torn there. So it needs some guidance along those lines. So that's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Okay, great. Those are great suggestions, Bob. And then Craig?
Yeah, good morning. Craig Lutz with Tamarack Wildfire. I would echo Bob's suggestion to get an update on state guidelines coming out of 762, and then more recently passed, well, I think it was House Bill 80 or something like that. So yeah, I know there's a new state mapping effort, so I just think updates on where that's going to lead us, and then it'd be also interesting to hear if wait for the states or pursue some fire mitigation measures on their own. And with that discussion, I also think we would benefit from a discussion from some of the local fire districts about how we can provide assistance to disadvantaged folks that can't either physically do the remediation work themselves or can't afford to have it done. And I think that'd be a great discussion to have with the fire districts and the fire departments locally, and perhaps even the State Fire Marshal's office. And then the last suggestion that I have is, I know the city of Ashland has done some really incredible things around fire mitigation in the wildland urban interface. And I'd love to hear how they started that process and kind of just an overview of what their program looks like.
Okay.
And that's all for me.
Great, thanks, Craig.
Kevin, with Ashland, they actually have a battalion chief now that is strictly wildfire within their department, so reaching out to him. His name on it, but I know that we were looking at doing a field trip to Ashland Sisters Fire.
Oh, yeah. Let me know.
Yeah, I'll try and figure out who that is and get hold of
I'd be interested in hearing an update from the Sheets Collaborative Forest Project folks. They've been around for many years now, done some great work, but I haven't heard much lately what their what they're working on and what's in their future.
Great, that's a good idea too. Kevin should be able to get us. hooked
Yeah,
up
I
with
think
that.
I'm on the seat there, so get someone to provide an update. On it.
I don't know what extent this Project Wildfire lobbies for anything, but I'd sure like to understand more where the direction for grant funding from the state's going. It seems to me like it's getting a little bit harder to get grant funding, at least at the HOA level now than it was even a couple of years ago. And yet the attention and the momentum is, at least in our HOA, and I think some others as well, is much higher. So there's a lot more interest in remediation. But sometimes it falls short when people have to put out $6,000 or something to get rid of a bunch of trees. So, and it doesn't have to be that level, but anything that we as communities can offer to our owners as some subsidizing of it, I think goes a long way. And that seems to be kind of drying up, at least from our experience. So I'm just curious if we.
Yeah, there was like over 100,000 in one of the bills that just came through. It originally was supposed to be like 500,000 for Deschutes County, but it was 100,000 for like removing junipers.
Yeah.
And where do you go and apply for that funding?
That's the watershed district. I think that's, I think I don't know if they set up the program yet, but it would be some kind of, probably a cost share or something with the water districts.
But that doesn't go
Deschutes
down to
County.
the community level though.
No, that's more for juniper, and it's based on watersheds. And so a lot of the neighboring counties, I think, got a little more. I think it was
They got a
700.
lot more.
Yeah.
We did
Well,
not
they
get
got a
as
lot
much.
more. Yeah.
Yes, I
And
was
we
during
did,
and half.
we did get a little bit, but obviously not near enough.
It was like 100,000. It was just
Yeah.
110,000 or something. I was like going, yeah.
But I'm just curious, what the state's thinking about. I mean, there's a couple different ways to go. We could focus on Senate Bill 762 and here's the rules and regs and the compliance side of it and enforcement, or are they considering, getting money all the way down to the owner level across the state in the medium to higher risk areas? I think it was Jefferson County that provided $500 last year to residents. You have to prove you've spent it and that sort of thing. But to me, that sort of grassroots level is really powerful because people don't like to give up, free resources. So they end up doing more activity than they would have otherwise. So I just think from a lobbying perspective, being in Deschutes County, I mean, if we can at least understand where they're heading and also try to influence their grant process, I just think there's some opportunity there. May not happen overnight, but in general, letting people know that we're really interested in getting funding to the owner level, because there's a lot of owners I think would take advantage of that.
One sec, Dean. Ariel's had her hand up for a minute. Ariel?
Oh, well, if anyone was going to respond to that question about state funding grant opportunities, you can go before me. That doesn't sound like anyone was. Yeah, I was just going to say that OSU Extension finally put out our fire resistant plants for the home landscapes guide. And so that is, if you're asking about potential presentations for next year, the horticulturist and myself who worked on it, we would be willing to present on that. And the kind of outreach opportunities that are going to go along with it. So that's something I could offer.
That'd be great.
Also that we are in the process of hiring an extension forester for that covers Deschutes, Crook, Jefferson, and Confederate Tribes of Warm Springs. So they should be on around March. So they could potentially give a presentation on, we hire people who we encourage them to have their own flavor, their own expertise of forestry, so they could potentially present as well.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ariel. Those are some good ideas. I'll be in touch with you about both of those.
And the other side of the story is that I just got an email from someone who was selling their home in Sisters. The people buying the home couldn't get insurance. And it's the elephant in the room. I did sit at the Farm Bureau dinner at Aspen a couple of weeks ago. I sat by a gentleman from Terrebonne who runs Country Financial and some other related, I believe, to the Farm Bureau. Anyway, they are actually insuring. So I said to the man who couldn't get his house sold, oh my gosh, I wish you would have gotten a hold of me like when the sale was still almost happening, because I could have sent you to the right person.
Yeah, we actually have.
Do you have that information anywhere?
We have Andy Newson from Country Financial on our steering committee.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Okay, this wasn't Andy, it was somebody from Terrebonne, I think. But
We just did an update last meeting on insurance at the coalition meeting.
oh, good.
And same thing, Sisters is a difficult area, Tollgate, parts of South County, Lapine. And he was talking about how there's a number of companies he's working with are not renewing in certain zip codes anymore. And the Forefront, or I think it's Forefront Insurance, which is big in manufactured homes, is not writing in Oregon at all anymore. So, that's it's a hard market. That's the trend, is it's getting more difficult. And there's a gentleman at our meeting last week said that his homeowners just went up, it was either 40 or 45% on his recent renewal. So as a topic, I think insurance updates every so often is always a good one to have, because that's going to affect all of us.
Yeah, I can tie into that. Sisters Fire, we actually met with the 3 or 4 insurance agents a couple weeks ago and sat down and talked to them, trying to figure out what information they actually need from homeowners and from fire districts to write their plans. But they're not necessarily writing plans anymore in Sisters in some areas. And it depends, they're actually getting like third-party companies coming in and doing wildfire assessments on homes and providing a report to them, and they're looking at that. But the other part is some insurance companies, they buy reinsurance to pay for the insurance, and reinsurance companies are not doing reinsurance anymore for those companies either. So unless it's a big company that has their own funds to back their insurance plans, it's becoming very difficult. So yeah, we're hearing multiple people getting their insurance canceled and having a difficult time finding it, or it's going sky high on premiums. We just had an example, Blackview Ranch just built a brand new home, 1.5 million, and the premium was 17,000.
See, my insurance was supposed to, when the fire went around my house, and it hadn't burned that that area for like 40 years. And USA was supposed to have us covered December 1st. No, they wouldn't come in. I go like, what do you mean? I lost like one tree. And they were like, no way, I had to go to the FAIR plan. So I actually was talking to the state legislators months ago about this, because there is some kind of plan that Oregon has, but seems like it's like $600,000 or $500,000 limit. And I said, you guys really need to look at the Oregon plan for people that are gonna have a really hard time with your legislators. So that's something that we all maybe in this room could do, is get a hold of your legislators and ask them to work on that plan too.
The problem with that Oregon plan is because it's limited, it's like catastrophic coverage. And a lot of lenders won't lend if that's all you have for home insurance, because it doesn't cover the house. So even though you can get basic insurance, if you can't get through a typical, that won't suffice typically, because most of those people would be financing their homes, and lenders.
Well, that's why I asked the
that.
legislators to actually fix it, because I did have the FAIR plan. And you don't want to have the California FAIR plan, but if that's all you could get, that's what, but it needs to be a better plan.
Correct.
So anyway, I did mention it to him months ago.
Let's go with Craig first, and then Dean. Craig, you had another comment, or?
Yeah, I did have another thought, is that it would be wonderful to hear from Bend Parks and Recreation District about their plan for hazard fuel reduction.
Okay. And then Dean.
Yeah, I wanted to say that we had an insurance representative on the steering committee for Project Wildfire for a few years, I think. And then he retired, and then we were trying to court somebody else, because that's an important component in all of this. And someone did, I think maybe they're on the steering committee, but they haven't been coming to the meetings. and
Andy's
stuff,
been
so-
coming.
What's that?
Andy's been.
Oh, he has been coming. Oh, okay. But yeah, that's an important seat, I
I
think.
think
Yeah.
it's this one, but.
And someone was asking about the Fire Marin. Fire Marin has a really excellent program. I've mentioned that to people. There's a lot of stuff online as far as videos that they put out and stuff, but we actually had a presentation at Project Wildfire from Fire Marin. Do you remember when that was? There a couple of years ago.
It was a
maybe.
couple of years ago.
A
yeah.
couple years ago, but it was wonderful. I mean, they are so far advanced, but I have to note that there's a lot of resources in that county.
Yeah.
And that really helps. And then another thing that was brought up was about taking out large ponderosa trees. Why should we have to do that? And I can't myself envision a situation where you would have to take out a large ponderosa tree around structures for fire hazard. Maybe if there's a safety hazard,
Yes.
then it's
I know
dead,
what I
you know.
yeah.
But
It's really dead.
they're fire resistant. A lot of times they don't have limbs for a long ways up, or you can limb off dead limbs. So, and that's one of the, I think that's one of the biggest misunderstandings that people have about defensible space and fire adapted space around their homes is the size and spacing and location of trees. And people are really attached to the trees for landscape purposes around their structures, but a lot of times these trees are just fine. They might need to be limbed up a little bit, especially if there's overhanging limbs over the house, that sort of thing. But if you look at some of the guidelines for defensible space, it looks like there's this universal formula for how to space the trees and where they should be, and it's really kind of on a case-by-case basis. So there's no real substitute for getting an assessment on a property or on a number of properties. And a lot of times, I think homeowners would be relieved to know that they don't have to take out all the trees, you know. And then in the bigger picture, you could clear cut all of the vegetation for a mile around you, and if you've got a wind-driven ember storm, you're still at risk, right? Because the structures are the highly flammable component that really need to be addressed as far as the whole picture.
So I have 7 more minutes for topics, and then we can go into more of a roundtable discussion. Does anyone else online have anything? Like to hear more from people on Zoom if they have any more topic ideas or anything that they're interested in hearing about this next year.
One thing I'd like to do that's been done in years past, I guess we'd like to reinvigorate it, is have like a annual cookout or barbecue in Sun River, hopefully. We could do that. We didn't do that last year, just couldn't get the pieces together, but you know, if we start planning now for it, I think we could really do that and try and get all these great communities to come down, and you know, we could present them a couple things, and I think it'd be good to, you know, not have a meeting in a room for once.
Yeah, have a little party.
Yeah, so that's one thing we'd like to put on the agenda.
Oh, this room is good too, but there's like a physics principle that things expand to fill the space that's available. So it would be good to actually have more people around the table, don't you think? Or is there a lot of people online?
You mean for our meetings?
For our meetings, yeah.
We were in the
Do you want to go back downstairs?
we were in the de-arming room, but we have we've had
I know
numerous
you have-
technical difficulties.
We don't wanna go back. and take
Isn't it
the-
better, or are we still having problems?
Oh, it's going great in this room.
Yeah.
We haven't had any technical issues at all since we moved up here, so
Yeah.
Kevin and I just talked about it yesterday, how we are happy staying in here, without any technical issues unless they decide to get a permanent in the other room, then we would
Yeah.
need to go back. but-
I was just talking about the space because it seems like we used to have more representation from a wider array of people as far as the steering committee and
Yeah.
We've got
participation.
23
You know, when it went
online.
online, it changed.
Yeah, it's probably shifted, you know, after COVID and everything else. More people are online.
And then, you know, I made it today because the roads are clear and everything, but, I think that if you continue to offer it online, that'll help.
Yeah. And that's why we've liked this room, is because the connection's really good and we're not losing that feed and we were having that problem.
Yeah.
down in the
Now downstairs is supposed to be better, and I will check on it.
Yeah.
Cause I get what you're saying, I'll check on it, yes, we do have a new head of our IT department, and she's working through a lot of issues.
Yeah.
I don't know, my phone was getting shut down every day this last week for some crazy reason, you know, with a check-in that's supposed to be like every 2 weeks, so there's always scary things out there.
Online is good, but I think face-to-face is better
Yeah.
whenever we can.
I think absolutely, and that's why I would like to reinvigorate that cookout, because I can't think of a better way to.
And also
integrate all
people
the
get to make
communities.
connections
Yeah.
in a less formal way.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're looking for another topic,
Yeah.
potentially like fire weather, John Saltenberger, like a John Saltenberger, something like that can come in during the summer when we start getting the fire weather, the red flag warnings and understanding how those firestorms happen.
You have their contact info I can get from me, so I can.
Yeah, we
email
can
you.
find John. I don't have it, but we can find it.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, that'd be a good topic, especially, during the summer.
Awesome. Seeing if Lauren might wanna give an update on the Wildfire Workforce Partnership.
Yeah, I can definitely give an update. So I'm Lauren Street. I work for the Central Oregon Intergovernmental Council, and I help run and manage the Central Oregon Wildfire Workforce Partnership. We did just receive at the end of the summer news that we were refunded again for an additional 2 years through the OCC Higher Education Coordinating Commission funding, along with some funding from OSFM that will complement that funding. So we're fully funded for the next 2 years, which is awesome. We were able to complete 422 acres of fuels reduction over the last 15 months with the previous funding in the last biennium. And we were able to serve over 100 youth. We put on 4 wildland firefighting trainings for youth in the greater Central Oregon area, and a lot of those youth received their red cards and went on to fight wildland fire, both in the state, out of the state, and we had some youth work on international fires that graduated from our program. And for anyone in the room that is not familiar with the program, it's a workforce training program, and we are working with Opportunity Youth to teach them how to do fuels reduction, put them through red card trainings, get them chainsaw certifications. And because it's a training program, we are able to provide that fuels reduction service for free in underserved communities. So we've got 8 target areas in Crook, Jefferson, and Deschutes County that we focus all of our work in. And so once youth graduate that program, they can go on to work for arborists or private contractors the Forest Service, ODF. They've got a lot of different opportunities. As we all know, there are endless opportunities for fuels reduction projects, and it is not a market that's going to be going anywhere anytime soon. So it provides a lot of great opportunities for youth that are entering the workforce. And when I say youth, we work with folks that are between the ages of 18 and 26. So those are a couple updates with the funding that we just received. We've gotten kicked off to a great start. We've already completed up between 30 and 40 acres over the last couple of months. And we are going to continue doing the Red Card training certification programs for youth. And we've got 8 planned over the next 2 years. We're hoping to increase our numbers to serving over 200 youth over the next 2 years. And we've got a great partnership with Heart of Oregon. And so we utilize the youth crews from COIC and the Heart of Oregon Corps to help do this work. And yeah, that's a quick update from what we've got going on here, but we're in project planning mode, and we've got a really great list of properties that are interested in working with us and having fuels reduction work on their private properties. And if anyone would ever be interested in having me come and present on this, if this is interesting, if you'd like to know more about it, I've got videos and pictures of the youth doing work, the projects that we've worked on, and we're really excited to continue the work on for the next 2 years.
Great, thanks, Lauren.
Yeah, thank you. Does anybody have any questions about the program?
You guys present to individual neighborhoods?
We do, yeah. And anybody that reaches out, we can either do a presentation, or I oftentimes get calls from private property owners that are interested, and I'll do a site visit and kind of walk through a property with the owner and talk about fuels reduction, what work they would like to see done. Of course, it's 100% voluntary, so we kind of come up with a scope of work plan with a property owner. But Heather with OSFM has sent me a lot of really great leads for community events that have gone on that I've presented at, and we've got a lot of really good leads from those. So all the presentations are kind of different and tailored to who we're presenting to.
Lauren, this is Toby Weiss. I'd be interested in a spring session.
Okay, I can put my contact information in the chat, and just feel free to
Great.
give me a call or shoot me an email, and we can definitely get something organized.
Thank you.
Yeah, someone was asking about, how to help people that can't do the work themselves or afford to hire someone. You and Heart of Oregon would be an excellent resource for that, I think.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're geared towards. Excuse me, is working with folks, because a lot of our positions, we're doing site visits, we're out educating folks, and there's always that question at the end of each of the presentations of, okay, well, now how do I get this work done if I can't physically do it, if I can't afford it, or whatever barrier people are experiencing. This resource definitely provides that opportunity, and it's completely free. And that would just be a part of that process of doing a site visit and getting people onto the wait list. We do have quite a few property owners that are signed up for the program and on this wait list, but I am doing site visits and continuing to add names to our list of properties that we're hopefully going to be able to get to in the next 2 years.
Great. Thanks, Lauren. Yeah, I'll probably schedule something with you to do a full presentation for us for Project Wildfire next year.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I'll put my contact information in the chat, and if anybody has any remaining questions or just wants to know more about it, please feel free to give me a call or send me an email.
Awesome. Thanks, Lauren.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Heather.
So if we don't have any last minute topics, I'd like to go into roundtable. Anyone want to throw out anything before I switch gears? All right. Yeah, so we wanted to make sure and have a good solid roundtable this month. Go ahead and start in the room, and then anyone online can jump in as well. You guys want to start us out over here?
Sure. Sophia, do you want to share anything?
I don't have anything to share.
Okay. Just wanted to give you an opportunity.
Thank you for that.
So again, I'm Emily Curtis with Discover Your Forest. And Sophia is our current Conservation Education AmeriCorps member. So she's coming around with me to different community fire meetings and kind of seeing how that works. So giving her some exposure to that. I have just a short topic. This is fortunately one of my slower seasons, so I'm doing some planning for next year. But last week I went up to Spokane to do the COCO, collaborations, yeah, thanks. Coalitions of Collaborations, Fire Mitigation Best Practices short course. So I did that, a 2-day short course. I think they offered online for like 6 or 9 weeks, and that sounded very intense. I'd rather just have the fire hose turned on and get it over in 2 days. But it was really, really beneficial. I think if anyone hasn't had the opportunity to participate, I think it would be really beneficial to anyone in the room. And it was completely free. I just happened to be available when they were doing one in Spokane, but it was, yeah, absolutely a good experience. And what I'm working on right now with the Deschutes and Ochoco National Forests and the Crooked River National Grassland is a series of community outreach, like trivia nights on wildland, fire, and forest health topics. So we're tagging on to existing trivia nights throughout Central Oregon. Next week we have one in Bend, and then we have another in Madras. We're trying to reach new audiences. So what I have been doing through some of the West is Burning events and other things is asking people to come to an event. And now we are going to an already existing audience to integrate a little bit into what they're already interested in participating in. So hopefully we get some traction and just exposing more people to kind of what mitigation work looks like, whether that's on public lands or at home, and why it's necessary.
I love that idea. Yeah. I know Silver Moon does a pretty robust.
That's who we're working with next
Okay.
week.
And
they
get a big turnout.
Yeah, so we'll be at Silver Moon next Thursday, November 30th, and thank you. Like, I don't know where I'm at. And then we'll be at New Basin Distillery in Madras on November 29th.
That sounds like fun. I'll have to come out.
Yeah, please come out. But don't like create a fire team. We want people to feel like they'll win.
Spread out.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily.
Let's see, updates from the state. I know that our defensible space program is continuing to ramp up. Leslie New is our program coordinator for that, and getting a lot of good materials out there and PSAs, and our deputy state fire marshals are available to do assessments for folks for free. And so if you go to OregonDefensibleSpace.org, you can request an assessment, and there's also materials there that you can take a look at for reference for that. And so that's available. Yeah, so we're just kind of pushing that along. And then more here in the region, the Oregon Department of Forestry and OSU and State Fire Marshal, Discover Your Forest, a lot of the agencies do a lot of collaboration together. And so there's a group that meets on a monthly basis to continue the work from like the PSAs that were done last spring, and just pushing forward to what the regional needs are for education and the events that we'll go to, and just really trying to build solid outreach for that. And so I guess just for awareness sake, just letting people know that the agencies do talk, we do collaborate quite a bit, and pushing forward with trying to meet the needs of the community and get the education out there the best we can.
For Sisters Fire, we have quite a few Firewise communities that have the renewals coming up right now, so we're involved in quite a few renewals. I think we got 3 or 4 in the next couple of weeks that we're working with ODF and getting them all through the process. They gotta do that every 5 years. So, and then we have a new firefighter community risk specialist for wildfire position at Sisters Fire. We got this as a grant through the state's 3-year position. And so he's part-time working on the line with ambulances and engines. And then the other part-time, he's focusing on wildfire risk reduction. So we're just now starting to get focused on the wildfire part with him. And he's going to be our Firewise liaison, working with different groups through the fire district. His name is Stephen Lord. So
A lot of really good stuff going on in Sisters overall. You guys can do a presentation on what's going on in the city.
He just said he wanted to, didn't he?
Right, yeah.
Or maybe cheap one. I know somebody in this room used goats to do some clearing, and I was wondering, does anybody remember whom? Because I wanted to talk to them and see.
Elizabeth Whitey.
Yep.
Yeah, Martin,
Yeah, she's here today.
the company.
What's her?
So our conservation district used to do that too.
Okay,
There's a company in Terrebonne, Martin Goats.
Martin Goats,
Yeah.
how many do they have?
Oh, quite a few. They're I think they have up to maybe 300.
Okay,
Yeah.
300?
Pretty much trained to do fuel and weed mitigation. So yeah.
They do their job well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're cute.
She said it was very effective, Elizabeth.
Oh, I know, it's incredibly effective because they used to use them in Southern California all the time. And I know that per the University of California, Davis, cattle do a really great job of removing the underbrush, but if we don't have fenced property, the goats, I know you can use them and they're a lot better. So I'll look up Martin Goats and see what their clearance capacity is on a daily basis.
They're really hungry and not too particular.
Right. I know, they will eat any flower you have in your yard, for sure.
They got metal.
So anyway, I just think that more people might consider using goats here. You know, what is it? I think, didn't we have expected to have 58 days of smoke in Bend or something like that? And so I'm thinking what can we do to not add more smoke, but actually do a lot of clearing and keep these goats really busy.
Yeah, they're really effective for weed mitigation and fuel mitigation. Any annual grass, and then even your brushes, like bitter brush, and they won't eat those at first. When I worked for Ben Park and Rec, we used them, and they kind of take all the easy stuff first, and then if you just let them stay out there, they will start to continue to eat the brush as well. So
I mean, bitter brush,
yeah,
but we don't want them to eat that because that's for the deer. That's the
yeah.
way to do
So
it.
as much as you,
We have to tell them no bitter brush.
as long as you leave them out there, so the brush is kind of
The last thing they want.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of how you would regulate them.
Okay, oh, good, so you're familiar with them then?
Yeah.
Oh, great, oh, thanks, Kevin.
Aubrey Butte, some of you have heard this before, but for those that haven't, we really expanded our Firewise capabilities starting last year, so in 2022. So we're finishing up our second year of increased effort. We have 782 properties. We've actually performed on-site property assessments for fire prevention of over 300 of them. And we did that with volunteering owners signing up for an assessment. Takes about 45 minutes. And now we're getting to the point where those are slowing down. So we work with Tamarack, and they're helping us create a map of our community, breaking it into zones so that we can have a little more proactive outreach to those owners in the certain zones that haven't had a assessment done yet. So we're trying to get that next couple hundred people to agree to have us come out and do assessments. We focus a lot on remediation that was a stumbling block the first year. People would get their assessments and then had a hard time finding somebody to help them do the fuels reduction. So we spent a lot of time developing our own sort of preferred provider list. And then what Lauren was talking about, we'd be very interested in having, you know, if there's other resources out there that we can help, no pun intended, but chip away at what we're trying to do from a remediation perspective. You know, we're always looking for those, and that's why I was very interested in grants and other forms, because we have a lot of people that really want to do the work and they either can't physically do it themselves. So these disposal events and some of the other ones are very helpful if they don't want to pay for it. And then just finding a service provider that they can even hire is sometimes difficult. So we're focused a lot on remediation. This targeted map, we're really excited about. We think we're going to have that done in the next month or so, to where we will develop a strategy for, we have about a dozen people that volunteer to assess, we've been trained by Heather and various folks around, you know, my wife and I are a team of assessors, and there's 5 or 6 other teams, either individuals or 2 people, that we go out and reach out to these people and do the assessments. And so we're hoping to have this strategy I mentioned, where we can go after a combination of either the topography. I mean, the butte is at risk anyway, but those that are particularly in sensitive areas, we want to reach out to them and just let them know that, you know, as a high priority, we'd really like to come over and help you assess the fire safety and give them recommendations on how to improve it. So that's a big focus of our Fireways committee right now.
You know, you said you wanted more money, and I think it was in 2020, I actually got them to triple the fire free at the transfer stations and not landfill. And I know the first year it was gonna cost the county like $500,000 for that service for everyone. And I said, well, what does one fire cost to Shutes County? So, and I haven't gotten the number yet on what it costs this year, but but maybe you're saying that we need to change our focus and go like individual.
You know, if the state spends, pick a number, I don't know what they spend, but if they spend 10 million on enforcement and compliance, is that money better spent than pushing $10 million down to owners that would actually
get the
remediate their
job done?
property? And you know, you'd have to be accountable for it too, that, you know, you don't just get $500 or whatever it is. You have to show that you did the work and you know, paid so and so, but there'd be some accountability for it. But I just think if you actually give, you know, hundreds of thousands of owners a subsidy to clear their property, most people will take advantage of that.
Well, but lots of people do take advantage when they go to the transfer station and not for free. You know, it's always amazing.
They do, but there's still a lot of people that can't.
Right, don't have that capacity because
they don't have a trailer, they
pickup.
don't have a truck, they can't get the money to the bins, you know, so we're trying to address some of that with, like, have volunteers to go help them. But there's a lot of people that would like to do it themselves, but just don't have the equipment or the resources. And so, I mean, it all helps, it's all good, but there's a decent percentage that can't take advantage of that. And I stuffed all the stuff in my wife's SUV the first year.
Oh.
She was not happy.
I was gonna say,
So that'll never happen again. So.
well, that was like one of the grant things that came through. You had to have like 100 acres, and I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, where did they come up with that number? Because really, if we can just start small and everybody can do something, it makes a difference. So we're, you know, we've got 5 million junipers to get rid of.
Hey, Sun River, we are trying to get as much done before the snow hits. So we're signing up all the loose ends. Our LFR contract is finishing up. We did about 140-ish acres this year. In the middle part of Sun River, we'll do about 120 to 130 down in the south end for next year. So all that field work is done, all that field prep. And then really for the winter, there's other things, but we're doing a refocus on our education and outreach materials because there are some definitely confusing messages in terms of the details associated kind of to field fit on individual properties instead of a one-size-fits-all approach. So that's going to be one of our major projects for the winter time. But yeah, so
how many acres is that?
About 3,300, private and commons.
For the Red Cross, a couple of things. I think many of you are aware our disaster program manager position is vacant right now. Patty Smith has left. I think she's working for the Parks Department, State Parks. So we're actively recruiting for that position. It's a very important one because most of our work on disaster preparedness and response in our area is all by volunteers. So that's the one paid position that oversees all that. So we're actively recruiting for that. So point anybody our direction that might be interested. And then the second thing is, I think it was about a little over a year ago, I gave a presentation to the group about our Red Cross Ready Rated program. That's a program that we provide to businesses and other organizations that want to kind of assess their disaster preparedness and kind of leads them through their own process for developing their own unique emergency action plan. That we still provide that service to anybody. I'm happy to provide coaching to any organization that wants to look into that. And in fact, last month we did that with the Humane Society of Central Oregon. So just a reminder that we provide that service. In the past, increasing business resiliency to disasters has been a strategic goal for Project Wildfire, and we've kind of entered into a partnership where we can provide that tool for organizations that want to go down that path.
Paula asked where to send someone for that open position.
I would contact our local office here in Bend, talk to our executive director, Morgan Schmidt, about that.
Thank you.
Okay. I took notes because I wanted to be accurate on this and report from the Upper Deschutes River communities. Our most popular mitigation program is a defensive space. I call it an incentive program where we reimburse the first $500 towards property owners that have signed up to have contractors help them with their defensible space. And the grant sources for this this year were MCM. I'm sorry, I'm using all the letters. Oregon State Fire Marshal and the BNSF Railroad. We had 85 applicants, and we reimbursed $41,500 at $500 property, but they actually spent over $113,000. So it was almost 3 times as much. So that means that it's working as an incentive program because they get some help to get going, but then there's always more. 500 won't go that far usually. We're going to need to raise at least $15,000 in 2024 to sustain the current demand. We have some funds that we can use, but there's a lot of demand. So then we have a low-income senior and disabled program, again, for those people that can't do the work and can't afford to hire someone to do it. And the grant sources for that has been MCM and also AIM, COCO. We paid contractors $12,000 for 12 projects, $1,000 a property. And we have three more scheduled for this year. We'll see if they get done before the snow's buried. And then we had a home hardening pilot project this year, which was very interesting. It had some unique challenges there, but we learned some things, and we got the funding source for that was AIM, COCO, and we ended up doing 18 home assessments, and eight projects were completed. So even though it was small numbers, it really pointed out kind of the exposure that people have on their homes and how kind of tricky it can be to have a program to assist people to do that. But it's really important work, home hardening. Let's see. And then like last year, we worked with Heart of Oregon and did some commons work. And River Forest Acres, one of our communities. And they're really great to work with. But we're finding out that some of these communities, because they're not 501 C3 nonprofits, they can't even apply for some of the grants and stuff. So we were a fiscal sponsor this year for another community, River Forest Acres, a defensible space project for their community. And that worked out pretty well. It's, we have to do the paperwork and be the intermediary and stuff, but it enabled them to get a lot of work done. So that's it for the report. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a few minutes left, but I really want to make sure that our Zoom attendees have a chance. So if anyone has anything to share for roundtable, you can raise your hand or put it in the chat, whatever you're comfortable with. Go ahead, Paula.
Just to let everyone know that we have started the process for Firewise, for being Firewise at the college. So that's a big undertaking for us, and we're excited and get our students all involved in that as well. So just wanted to announce that.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to come out there.
If I could, this is Toby Weiss with Whitefish Canyon Estates. I just want to offer a quick shout out here to Kevin Moriarty, Chief Puller, Eric Mesker, and James Osborne. What a great partnership. We've been working with all of you to create awareness, communications. We just executed a 3-day fuel cleanup here recently in Whitefish Canyon Estates, probably about 250 homes. And we really appreciate the partnership in working with all of you. So, and Jeff, I can see you there. I can't see the others. I assume they're remote. So I thank all of you. We'd love to share a video of what we've accomplished, and we'll have the final version of that in a few days, and we'll send it out hopefully to this distribution. Thank you.
That'd be great. If you could email that to me or Kevin, I can put it in our next newsletter.
Absolutely. And who is me?
Corinne Heiner.
Okay, thank you.
I work with Kevin, so if you have Kevin's email, he can get it to me too.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. All right, anyone else online?
This is Gary Marshall, the Deschutes County Fire District number 2. It doesn't look like a raise there representing our district today, so I'll just chime in a few things. The City of Bend and Fire District 2 just went through their ISO reclassification. This happens every 10 years for insurance classification. The city is now a Class 2. The best you can become in the United States is a Class 1. So the city, for their 37 square miles, will be a Class 2. The Rural Fire Protection District number 2, they cover 140 square miles outside of the City of Bend. They're going to be a Class 5, which is also a really good rating for district residents. Also, I just wanted to say that Fire District number 2 still has some grant funds available, and that funding period will end probably first part of June. And also Melissa Steele has started the program with Deschutes River Woods. We received that grant from State Fire Marshal's office, and so we've opened up an account with Deschutes Recycling Center to start taking debris there. And also Melissa has off to the printers with fire prevention materials that they'll be handing out to all the residents. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, anyone else online? Got another minute.
I have one quick shout out to the Central Oregon Co-op for electricity. They did a beautiful job of clearing under the Scanlon logging road behind Toll Gate. And it was I think it's very helpful. They just took a huge amount of debris and trees and things that would be under a power line out for us.
Great. Is that Carolyn? Was that you?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Mhm.
Alright. Unless anyone has anything else to add really quickly, it is 9:30, so thank you all so much. It was a successful meeting. I feel like we got a lot of great topics and glad we had a nice roundtable. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's I'll see what I can do to get smaller.
Thank you.
I would love it. It's
I know.
It's across the city. It's a medium thing. It just seems like right away.